We are a constantly expanding, dynamic, open plan information and energy matrix. We're an interface between planet Earth and the universe. And the more you understand that and how it functions, the more you'll be able to actually access that part of you that will serve you rather than stay lying dormant. Body is my first teacher. Nature becomes my second teacher. Looking at the universe is my third teacher, and then I look at other humans around me.
Tell us a little bit about your history. How did it really start for you? Where did the healing journey start?
So I grew up in Australia, in Sydney, decades ago. Born in Sydney, and my parents emigrated from, at the time it was Greece, but they actually came from the Black Sea, because we're the ancient Ionians who've lived there for we don't know how long, thousands of years at least. And my mum brought her traditions, and one of them was she was a healer and a village practitioner, and she fixed dislocations, breaks and contusions, and took away the evil eye, and made her own remedies from herbs that grew in the garden, which we had a large one. And she made decoctions and tinctures, and that's boiling up herbs. Tinctures are putting them into alcohol and extracting the main sort of healing capacities of the plants. As a boy, I found myself doing that because my mum felt there was something in my hands, and she had osteoarthritis. And the truth be known, she was supposed to pass when she was 45, and I managed to keep her alive till she was 90, which I'm very happy about. And she had a good life and a very good passing, a very happy journey. Kept my dad alive. He had a degenerative spine disease from his 60s, and he was about 82 when he passed. She was disabled, and she was taking care of an invalid. So, she was having a hard time of it, and I've been taking care of them for as long as it was required. So, from a healer, I got into movement. My dad was a Greco-Roman wrestling champion, so he got us to love movement. I was taken to a judo class and fell in love with it when I was 6. Did gymnastics at 8, and then by the time I was 10, I did karate, and by the time I was 12, I met Bruce Lee on screen. I said, that's who I'm going to be.
That's the guy.
That's the guy. That's who I want to be. Yeah. So I worked like a demon every day, 6 hours a day training to integrate Tai Chi, Qigong, Kung Fu, yoga, meditation, and healing. And I realized they were all internal arts, right? They're the arts of the journey that you go on internally to get to know who you are, not through books, not through discussions and discourse, etc., but the journey that your entire being takes you on. And your body is no longer a machine that you tell what to do, but rather it discloses to you on the multiple levels that it exists, who you are, where you are, what you're doing. Hence, I've said in the past, body is my first teacher. Nature becomes my second teacher. Looking up into the sky, looking at the universe is my third teacher, and then I look at other humans around me. And I can see straight away how many of those have gone through that learning. Have you learned to listen to yourself? If you have a problem listening to other people because of authoritarian issues or whatever, that's fine. But why can we not actually listen to ourselves? I think the first reason for that is we don't know how. Because we're taken out of that context. When we're young, we know what works for us in terms of the food and what medicines and what clothing and what exercise, or whatever. But then we get schooled. And schooling is a very interesting process, depending on the country, depending on what school you went to.
The education out of us, I used to say, in many ways.
Exactly.
I mean, the Battle of Trafalgar is not really going to give you anything, is it? Although it's interesting at the time, but what does it really translate to? It's not like emotional intelligence, is it? Or budgeting, or communication skills. This is what I say about schools. It's important to know.
Agreed. And so emotional intelligence is very important, but I feel that emotional maturity is even more significant. Yeah. Because most of us, we all grow old, but very few people grow up. Because we get stuck at a particular instance in our life, moment in our life, where a trauma took place, and it basically keeps you stuck there emotionally. So, I met many people, most people are around between 3-4 years of age and 6-7. That's about as far as we end up maturing emotionally. So of course we grow up physically and mentally we're, some of us are geniuses. We're super duper. We're amazing. We've learned to,
Did all this stuff.
to utilize our memory and store information and access it at will. That's what tests are all about. That's what IQ tests are about.
Yeah.
How well you can access that particular, that part of your memory at will to be able to retract and bring into the conscious mind a whole body of knowledge and data within a short period of time and say, yes, I've got the answer to all of these things. But how much of that is actually you? The real you. Because there's more to you than just memory, the intellect, the mental body, and the mental faculty.
Yeah.
So it tends to over-dominate, and the feelings and your sense of happiness, joy, sadness, grief, pain, anger. This is secondary, and we repress it with the intellect. And then the tertiary, the third level, are your senses. And they know so much more about you because that's what you had when you were first born. You didn't have all the other stuff, right? And then the fourth level is the energy, the body electric, the dynamics. And the fifth level is the interplay, the body, the physical body integrating all of this and acts as the intermediary between all of that and your consciousness. So once you start unpacking, as you say, all of those different parts of us and look at which pathways, which portals are entered into the conscious mind from the subconscious, even the unconscious within us, it's a very, very big undertaking to begin to understand what am I compared to who am I. See, who am I is I'm someone's father, someone's friend, someone's brother, someone's son, someone's boss, right? So many exactly, many hats, many roles for many titles. But what you are is only one thing. We're not a machine. We're not just an organism with many systems that behave sometimes like a machine. We are a constantly expanding, rather than a limited, dynamic rather than static, open plan rather than closed bubble, information and energy matrix. We're an interface between planet Earth and the universe. And the more you understand that and how it functions, the more you'll be able to actually access that part of you that will serve you rather than stay lying dormant, like if you've got a handset that has thousands of functions, but you only know how to use 5, at best 10. The rest is dormant. They're dormant functions. And it's just potential.
Yeah, no, do you know, and it's really interesting to hear you unpack that, and it's really come across in a very good way. I told you about this guy, didn't I, Dr. Konstantin? He's really got it down. It blows my mind every time, but the conversations we have, because that makes so much more sense then to another element that was a bit, and then that makes more sense. So when you put it into a whole about how this whole infrastructure is working internally and externally, there's just so much explanation there. There's so much examples there, and it makes so much sense, really. It's making some things that are really complicated simple, and this is so valuable to people because you keep hitting walls. It's like, if someone gives you a brand new present of this big fancy new, TV system, it might have all the whistles and bells and even things you don't understand. Like, what's that? But if you don't know how to work it, what chance have you got? Now, in my book, really, this journey as a human being, it's kind of like that. The thing is finding out how this translates. What is this thing? If I press that button, what happens, right? It's craziness. But that gives us so much pain, brother. It gives us so much adversity. It pulls us back. It really limits our vision, our focus, our attainment to our higher goals of being, what we need, our desires, the things that we want. It makes us so much more less than the more that we need to be, not just even for ourselves, because it's translating, isn't it, to people, places and things, which is the next level of it. But of course, it's an inside job, right?
It's it's a very inside job, and those buttons are real. And when they get pressed, the associated factor that's in our subconscious that's stored, that doesn't have an emotion yet, or any other meaning, gets pulled straight up into the conscious mind, and that's your infrastructure, right? There's the preconscious, the subconscious, the unconscious, and they're linking us to the collective unconscious within society. Then we've got the observer, we've got our conscious mind that as an observer, like a scientific observer. But that observer is still biased to some extent, because there is a like as opposed to a dislike, and it's still critical. It's still judgmental. It still needs to explain things and put things into boxes and label those phenomena that manifest. So anything that manifests is a phenomenon, something that literally is now seen as opposed to not seen. But then we've got another level which we can cultivate. Probably some people have an experience of that, the supra-self, which observes from a non-critical, non-judgmental place, just holding space to allow what is there to be what it is without saying, oh, don't know if I like that. Don't know if that is that threatening my feeling of safety, comfort and security? Is it going to add to me? What's in it for me? What do I get by paying attention to it? Why should I give it the time of day? The part of us that asks those questions is very strongly linked to survival. It's not about being good or bad. It's about being limited or not limited. So if we want to expand, we have to cultivate, and meditation helps that process by being able to see all the different thoughts that whiz by like molecules of gas at high speed, lots of space. None of those molecules mean anything until you connect with that particular molecule and say, I've just recognized, I have identified you. I have given you an identity. Suddenly you bring it down and then you put it into the feelings. So what do I feel about that thought? And then that feeling has to gain more gravity and go into your gut and say, what am I sensing about that thought and that feeling?
So look, I want to unpack this a little bit, because this is really valuable. And it's another area that really has people all over the place, right? Is thoughts, right? So the mind as a switching station is a really good analogy.
CPU,
people think,
central processing unit.
Yeah, the mind thinks, the brain thinks. No, it doesn't. That's your first biggest mistake, because no, it doesn't. It's a switching station, translating thought, which then opens up to, well, if that's the case, then there's all this stuff in the ether, and it's coming through, and now it makes a lot more sense because I have more of an understanding. So look, just to pin that to the post, as it were, about thoughts, intrusive thoughts you think, where did that come from? All of this stuff. How does that really work in the sense, these thoughts coming through, managing these thoughts? Sometimes, telekinesis, it's like you've felt, twins, if they feel one's like ill and the other one, all of a sudden my arm's hurting too. And, I'm in Australia, but it's funny that my arm was hurting too. Just explain a little bit about how these thoughts and feelings then in the field are working through this, through this station, which is the brain, all right, translating things. How does that actually work?
So we pick up signals. We pick up stimuli that become electrical signals. Those signals then manifest, firstly, preconscious, and not all of them at all, as we said, 20 million per second, but only about 40 of the stimuli enter or get registered in the conscious mind. So the moment the signal manifests, when you think you're having a thought, what it's doing is triggering something that's already there in terms of your referential base. It's like a dictionary, or let's take a look at my archives. I'm trying to relate what's just come into my conscious mind to something that exists. Now, if it doesn't, so that's like a first-time imprint, right? That's really important to understand. And we still will utilize, when we're very young, we touch things, we smell things, we taste things, we put everything in the mouth, because that is the process of building up the archival, referential base of our reality. So anything that enters into our conscious mind gets automatically compared to that. So if the thought is connected to something that does not threaten, already that's a thumbs up. If it's connected to something that you already identify with and say, oh, I recognize that. So it's a recognition as opposed to an original cognition. Then it gets a second tick. If that thing that you recognize doesn't make you feel threatened, it gets a third tick. If it's in your favorite box, you get your fourth tick. And if it's in the, you know, the likes of like something I really like, then you get the fifth tick, like because a reward, and that becomes a reward. Yeah. And you see, so thoughts are signals that have been translated into an image, because we always have an image about a thought, and then you have a feeling about the thought, right? Now, that is the downward causation. The way in which this process has been described by wisdom traditions and by neuroscientists, I've come to realize is only one-way traffic. That's what comes down. It's like from space, we capture something, like they talk about your transpersonal chakra. I see it like a parabolic dish that picks up information, and it's big and it picks up lots of information. And that information then substantiates, becomes substance, and goes from nothingness into somethingness by getting more and more dense under gravity. Passes the thoughts, goes from gravity into the feelings in the heart, and from there down into the gut, which eventually becomes knowing. Not knowledge, that's different. Knowing. Okay? Right. But we have a second level of information transmission and a journey, which is, because that's the downward causation, from heaven to earth, from nothingness to somethingness, from ether, if you like, into substance. Okay? Into the physical body, into your gut, into that knowing space. You know? Then we have something that goes from substance, core energy from the earth, from the mother, up into the body, and activates the root center or the gonads, and basically all of our step-by-step glands and the nervous connections with all of them. And it goes from something substantial, and it's slowly refining itself, like thick diesel, refining it into high octane, and even more etheric type of vaporized substance that it goes into. It dematerializes. So we're picking energy up from the earth into the root, from the root into the gut, from the gut to the heart to the midbrain further on. So it's a two-way traffic. And that's something that not many people pick up or speak about at all. And so that's happening all the time. The only difference is how tuned in are you to the root energy. Some people are more tuned in than others, and they feel that energy, you can call it the biomagnetic field, right? So the geomagnetism, the magnetic field of the earth that's being generated by the earth turning around on its axis at very high speeds, around 16,000 kilometers, 10,000 miles an hour, is activating high levels of free ions through minerals that get liquid, and that's creating a magnetic field. And the earth has a very powerful magnetic field. We pick up that magnetic field. It acts upon us to create and generate our biomagnetic field. We also pick up energy from the sun, which is electromagnetic. So electromagnetism, akin to picking up energy from space, downward causation. Geomagnetism, which is substance, entering into the physical body, results in biomagnetic field, the biomagnetic field, which is what we are. Right, okay. So when you've got all that information happening, it's all 3D stuff I'm talking about. And it's all we know, because the body electric is basically voltage, amperage, resistance, hydrogen, oxygen potential, that's the pH, and the electron volts. Without the body electric, you would be pronounced clinically dead. So it's important to understand the body electric is critical within all of this. Yeah. So everything I'm talking about is no longer, it's out of the realm of just chakras, auras, etheric bodies, and whatever.
Come right into the science, the science of it that makes it real. Is what I'm saying, and that's a real difference and expertise and innovation from you. It's mind-blowing. Now, I want to go back to the work now. I know you're the founder of the Odyssey, I know we're going to be going to, we're involved in some really important stuff around the world, and we're going to be traveling. We're even going to be seeing heads of states and some other people and different stuff to make the world better, all right? We won't go into that. There's a lot of work to be done, but we're really privileged to be positioned to be able to do work on things like this within the greater collective, and add just our bit of value, whatever that is, to making things better. That's a real privilege. And to be at that level after all the work, after all the slog, it's a real privilege and an honour. Okay. So, I know that, but, to bring it back as well, I know you speak all around the world as a keynote speaker. Obviously, you're very coveted, in many areas for this, what you do and all the rest of it. Won many awards and all that stuff. But behind all that, and the very key, amazing global people you work with constantly around the world, right, and have done for many years. I know you've got the Odyssey, right? The Odyssey, which is an amazing building. We're here now in the Odyssey, right? Canary Wharf, it's an amazing place, right? And so tell us about the work at the Odyssey and what that does and the healing and the real change and the real things that have gone on here. Because this is real people, real stuff right here as well. And the thing I love about Konstantin as well is he's super inclusive. I mean, obviously there's no airs or graces here, and he's a real healer, from the old school, the real thing, and they're just an amazing person. Like I said, but definitely, I would say the cleverest person I know. All right, I'm not just saying that. I know some unbelievable people. I really do. You know this, unbelievably clever. But I've always thought to myself, some of the real most intelligent people, like the common sense way and all the rest of it, I ever met were doctors. And I've talked about this with my doctor friends and surgeon friends, and it's not just because they have to have that real specific learning and keep updating that knowledge, but they have to deal with people. So it's common sense. Yeah. They need the common sense. And that's what I've really found, why I found doctors just to be so clever in, so much. Of course, you're a doctor and so much more. So I'm not surprised. But the other part of that is that you are helping real people, and you're a real angel for humanity in what you do and in your healing journey. So that's what the Odyssey has really been about. You've put your life's work into this, right? So it needs to be said. So tell us about that and what goes on here, and what kind of people you heal, and some of the good stories that you've got of what's gone on here.
Well, Odyssey means vision in ancient Greek, and it came to me that it's a place into which people can come to find their own true sense of vision about who they are, why they're here, and how to make best use of the time they're in their physical body throughout this life. So the two major arms are me dealing with injuries, bringing people back, so rehabilitating people from car accidents, sports injuries, strokes, whatever. So that's the traumatology side, and I look at the impact those traumas and, let's just say, the long-term, the chronic pains and difficulties that they go through has on their psychological and emotional level. And then I deal with people's psychomental and emotional issues, which is why I became a specialist at looking at the impact your thoughts and feelings have on your physical body through the nervous system, hormonal system, the body electric, and how that interface can be enhanced so people learn from their pain and suffering, and they can actually find their way out and become their own participatory guide and teacher for themselves. Because at the end of the day, I don't live in their body, they do. I'm just here to reflect. I facilitate a process that assists them to see what they are. Because for as long as you're stuck in the who, you're not going to get very far. You're going to keep going around in circles, basically playing the same old programs like a broken record about what happened in the past and who did you wrong or whatever it is. So what we deal with here fundamentally are dealing with injuries, as I've said, rehabilitation, chronic disorders, whatever, and psychomental and emotional problems. The major focus of the Odyssey was health and self-development. The emphasis on self, not personal development. There are thousands of places to go to basically learn more about your personality, character, and identity interface. What I do is I teach people about that part of them they don't know. They weren't taught at school, and they don't learn in these other institutions, which is the non-critical, non-judgmental self. The self that exists in a neutral place all the time, holding space to allow something to be, to allow another person to be. Learning to listen and hear and see, basically, through the other person's eyes and ears. And that is critical. And if you can't do it with yourself, you're never going to be able to do it with other people. That's why most people, when they're sitting, supposedly listening to you, actually they can't wait till you stop speaking so they can jump in and tell you what they want to say. It's very hard to listen. It's not being a good listener, it's being a real listener. Don't listen to the person's words. Listen to not just the meaning behind the words, but where those words are coming from. What do they represent? How much pain and suffering is there? How much of that person's truth is being spoken through those words that you're opening a space for and you're supporting? And that is what the Oris is about. So we have stages of whatever, wherever a person is in themselves. Stress solutions then become, so solutions to basically the stress that people, panic attacks and so forth that they feel. And then we have an assessment, a health assessment, which is really important, helping a person to understand their life state, like a little snapshot of what's going on between their conscious mind and subconscious mind through the sympathetic, parasympathetic interface. And then from there, we've got a device that uses flickering diodes, lights basically, that help activate the neurons in the brain. And so we activate through the eyes and the inner ear, and also binaural beats that are basically isochronic tones, same timing tones, and beats that are just off center so that it can help reprogram the thinking patterns and the conscious mind. So basically it speeds up what meditation would do for you. Remember, meditation is about slowing down all the busyness of the thoughts and calming the agitation of the feeling so you can actually see what's there rather than to be taken. You see, if you don't do that, you're always in trigger mode, which is reaction. If you learn to press, first off, find your pause button and press it, you can slow everything down. So I'm in pause. I'm not going to react. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to hold the space to allow what's there to manifest and express itself to me, not me run after it and say, what are you doing here? Where do you come from? Who goes there? Right? Threat. Potential threat. Gonna shoot. Shoot first and ask questions later, partner. Yeah. You know? So all that kind of stuff needs to be understood. So, and once we slow it down, only then can we find a reset button to start reprogramming. Because until that time, all you're doing is overlaying new techniques and skills that will get you what you want, but it'll be sabotaged by those programs based on survival. And it happens all the time. And that's fundamentally what we do at the Odyssey. I take you through different trainings and different therapies, etc., to assist you to see what's really there as opposed to the you think and feel you are based on existing programs that themselves are driven by survival and protection.
Absolutely spot on, and so critical, so pivotal, so needed in this world. And that's about this message going out to the world, and that's about the global work that's going on here too. And you know, it's my privilege and many other people to host Dr. Konstantin. A lot of stuff you're going to be seeing a lot more of him. And so look, I know there's a lot of people out there who would love to know more about this, and definitely need a bit of help. You know, like my own good self, of course, right? You know, yeah. Seriously. And there you go, right? You know, that's how valuable this is, and how immediate and how real, you know, all of this stuff is. You know, in the human condition, you know, as my humble self call it, right? So, where do people find you and get in contact with you?
Well, the website is orasyhealth.com. So quite simple, just the word ORASSY, Oscar Romeo Alpha Sierra Sierra Yankee Health, as in health.com.
There you go. So you've got that, and you can play that back if you need to get that, because I'm telling you, I've been searching many moons, many mountains, many valleys, for the right person. Impossible task. I'll definitely have him here, and you know, my dear friend Konstantin. So if it's good enough for me, what I've been through, suggest you dive in there and at least ask some questions and find out a little bit more. Listen, it's been a big pleasure as always to spend time with you and for you to give us your experience and knowledge. You know, I know what it's meant to be the person that you are, travel the journey that you are, and I know what a giver, what a big healer you are, and I know what good that you're doing. It's been a pleasure to have you on here.
Thank you very much. A great pleasure. First, to know you and your authenticity and honesty is rare today. It's simply very rare. Most people are too scared to speak what they feel, and they hide behind lots of layers and masks and whatever, and that unfortunately creates a lot more difficult karma to work through.
No worries, thank you. Look guys, there you go. I want to wish you and your family a very warm, very safe, very abundant, very rich holiday. Of course, that's coming up now. Have some fun, enjoy yourself. I'm Stephen Gillen, of course, had my own unfortunate history, dark history. If you want to know a little bit more about me, it's really easy to go into Google and all that stuff. Got my book up, out there. We're doing some TV stuff. We're doing lots of other stuff. If you're interested in that, go and have a look. And of course, the wonderful Dr. Konstantin, I really advise you, look behind, go on a journey, find out a little bit more. It's going to be really valuable to you. Look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. God bless.